Hey, babe.
Hey,
How's the day? How's your day?
it was a good day. My mom came to visit and now she went home
I
again.
know. Bro, she just popped in on us like, just gonna come in from Wisconsin. No big deal.
She just showed up. It was great.
I was
I
like,
loved it.
get the heck out of here. Oh, no, don't leave.
Yes, and the kids were excited.
Yeah. Love my mother-in-law. Love her. Big shout out to my mom-in-law, Sherry Steinbrink.
Yes.
Happy birthday. Thanks for making your daughter. And if you weren't born, then, we wouldn't have this.
Yes.
Hey everybody, what's up? This is Daron, and
And I'm Becca, and this is the Love Don't Lie podcast. Welcome back.
welcome back. We're gonna just kind of jump right into it. As you may or may not know, this podcast is about all things relationship with Jesus, with your spouse, with your kids, parents, friends, enemies, acquaintances, and everybody in between. This podcast is about really being able to be better at relationship. That's what the whole love don't lie. Because if you truly love someone, you're gonna tell them the raw, honest truth.
Yes.
Because you're not gonna let them live in a lie, and you're
Mhm.
not gonna lie to them to pacify them or to prevent them from living in where their feelings matter more than what the truth is.
Right, for sure.
So that was hard to get out. And so we are talking about being confronted with the truth and being able to confront with the truth well and in love, right? So today's message, or not message, but
The
the,
topic.
the preaching me labeling something. I guess we would label this title, this whatever you want to call this episode, would be erroneous expectations.
Yes.
Erroneous.
It's a fun word.
So, and meaning that people go into relationships not clearly defining expectations or what will or will not be in a relationship, or what should or should not be expected.
Right.
And therefore, when that happens, it causes a breakdown in communication. And in that breakdown of communication, it it causes people to just live a lie around each other.
Right.
So we're gonna start with, by the way, big shout out to uh, Pastor Ryan Perkins and First Lady Perkins, because as we said it before, Pastor Ryan has blessed our lives by imparting into us some very good wisdom and marital advice and relationship advice. And so, this topic that we're going to be talking about comes actually straight from one of our marriage counseling sessions.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah. So let's talk about improper or wrong. Erroneous means wrong, by the way.
Right. Comes from the word error.
Right. So let's talk about wrong expectations in our relationships.
Yes. Well, I think everybody goes into relationships. Well, not maybe not everybody, but lots of people go expecting this perfect looking thing. Like this is the perfectness of what this person is going to be for me, because we all put off a certain front,
A facade.
right, just to impress people, or because we don't want people to see our faults, and so then you know each person is thinking this is how this person is. And then we also have our own thoughts of how things should be or maybe will be because of how we were treated
Right.
growing up or the relationships we've seen in our own lives, whether it's our parents or godparents or whoever, and we think this is how it's going to be,
Right.
but we don't necessarily communicate those things when we get in a relationship. We don't say, hey, this is how my life was, this is what I'm expecting from you,
Yeah.
this is what I'm like, and this is what you can expect from me. Because, well, hey, we probably wouldn't be together if I told you everything
Right.
right up front.
We being from two very different places in the country, there's a term that is thrown around a lot, and that term is culture shock.
Yes.
But people don't realize that culture shock is not just a macro or a large, wide lens view, such as where you're from, what state, what region. It it has to do with all the way down to your home life. What is the culture of your house?
Wow, that's a good point.
What is the culture of your friendship circles? What is the culture of
Church life.
your church?
Right.
What yeah, so
Like, we both grew up in church, but it was a totally different kind of church.
right.
So when I moved down here, it was like, wow, it's so different. We both love Jesus, but like we do it different.
Right. Um home lives. That was the hardest for me to get used to, just understanding why and how your family functioned the way it did.
Right. And you always would say, like, you in the beginning would like always compare, like, oh well, I dealt with this and that, so you didn't have it as,
Be a little more specific because that's pretty vague.
like, how your dad treated you versus how my dad treated me.
Right.
You'd compare, like, well, my dad was harder on me, so you shouldn't be having such a hard time dealing with stuff your dad did. And but we each, being male versus female, we deal with emotions differently,
Right.
and maybe we're taught differently how to handle the hurts in our life. And so he thought, like, I shouldn't feel a certain way, and I'm like, well, but I do feel this
Yeah,
way.
but you were just like you were all emotion.
And that's true too. And I've learned not to be so emotional about things. Um, but again, that comes from church culture as well, and well, and home culture. Like, both things were very emotional based. Home life, emotional based, church life. And so when it came to dealing with anything, really, it was just the emotion of it all.
Like you were like wide open emotions. I didn't realize how emotional of a creature and a person. I mean, I admitted that I was a very emotional dude, but like I didn't realize how emotional I was.
Well, yeah, you put this hard front up, like that you're just so cool or whatever, and then it turns out
I
like there's this
was.
this soft spot that will make you cry.
Oh yeah, that's always, dude. Old people, puppies, and babies,
Old people.
and and Jesus. Um,
That's right.
no, I've never been hard though. You know what I'm saying?
No, but like in the beginning, I felt like
Like I
you
had
weren't as emotional as,
right.
like, you didn't put off that
I had a bit
emotion.
of a tough guy streak, but
That's the
I've
word. Tough, tough, not
I've
hard.
I've always been a soft-hearted person. But the culture in which we came from was very, very, very different. Being from Midwest, far north,
Right.
cold weather, cold people. That's one thing I'm glad that you did not adopt and have. Like you were you were pretty approachable and friendly, and a lot of Midwesterners are friendly, but like
They don't want to get close. They'll be like nice to your face,
Yeah.
and then after you're gone, they're like, glad that's over.
Right. Right. Well, and that's, you know what that is though? I noticed this. Midwesterners who are more city people, even though the cities aren't that big, but you're more town people are that way, but your country people and rednecks and your farmers and your country folks, they're a lot like us down south. Like they're family oriented, friendly. Don't cross me, and I'll give you the world.
Well, that makes sense though,
You know,
because I think being in the country, coming down here, being a more relaxed environment, like you're around the cows, you're around the, you're around just not as busy of a space.
right?
So,
But that's a lot of places. Like New Orleans is like that. People are friendly and they're helpful, but like at the first sign of
sketchiness?
yeah, you being sketchy or shady, they're done with you. They either gonna walk off. They're not gonna, you know. So I think it's very much a rural and urban kind of thing.
Right.
Um, where I think I
In the
think
city,
country people are just more easygoing.
true. In the city, people are always like, there's always just so much to do
Right.
that they're focused on what's the next thing. Let's go, let's go. And they're busy because,
But see, that's an example of culture in the city, 60 miles away, is so much different than culture here in Covington. Covington and Bogalusa are different.
right.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
And Picayune and here, they're it's like worlds apart. It's
Right.
so saying all that to say this: the very culture in which we encountered each other and couples encounter each other. People have this fairy tale idea of how, especially if you don't spend a lot of time together before you get married or you're move in with each other
Right.
or
And
whatever.
we didn't really.
We had a long distance relationship, and then I
Right.
moved up to Green Bay, and it wasn't too long after that we were married and then living together. But we didn't have somebody to help us sit and sort through our communication issues.
That's true. That's true.
Because a
Unfortunately,
lot,
people would like tell us a problem they see,
yeah,
but not help you get to the
they
root
would
of
never
what the actual
communicate.
issue is.
Right. Oh, you guys fuss a lot. Or, you know,
Oh, this is a problem, that's a problem, but well, what's the actual
what's
thing
the
that causes that
resolution?
problem?
Right, right,
How can we fix it?
right.
And there would never be any help fixing things until recently, like you said, with our pastor helping us through those things. Thankfully, we've been able to resolve a lot. So,
For sure. So back to the foundational erroneous expectations.
that word.
Because you had expectations of me that were even false.
Right.
And let's talk about the false expectations I had of you, that even though in my mind they made perfect sense to expect these things of somebody, um it just wasn't a part of who you were as a person yet, or it wasn't a part of who I was as a person yet. And not knowing how to help each other develop those things and to call it up out of each other from a place of, hey, this is what I need of you because we've chosen to be together and you have made a commitment to me, I've made a commitment to you. Now let's figure out how to be what we need each other to be, right? Without presupposition, without judgment, without erroneous expectation. I love saying that.
Excuse me.
Without expecting something from the other person that they just can't give. And that's one thing I mean by erroneous expectations. You're expecting something out of them that they just were not prepared or capable of giving, right?
Right.
So I expected you to know how to be a housewife. because you spent so much time at home. Your mom was a housewife. Your mom did things a certain way, and my mom did things a certain way, and I began to expect those things. And when I did not get that, I projected that you should be able to do these things and comprehend. Like this should be simple stuff, and it was something you were just never imparted or didn't have a desire to learn.
Like what? I mean, I felt like I always was
I'm talking
capable
about.
of doing domestic-y things.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's. I was just using that as an example.
I mean, what did you expect as far as housewife ideals out of me?
To be honest, you're a great housewife.
I mean now, but like I used to
Well,
not be able
even
to cook as good.
that's one thing I was gonna say. The only thing I could really probably put my hand on is when we first got together, you didn't know how to cook to save your life.
I knew how.
No, no, you didn't. You knew
I knew how to follow a recipe.
you knew how
I
to
could do that.
you knew how to put things in pots and pans on heat, but you didn't know how to
I didn't know seasoning.
you didn't know how to cook.
You know seasoning, and you taught me all the Louisiana ways.
Like
And I was like, I've been missing out so
but I'll
much in
tell
my
you
life.
what, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I was working at the was I still at the Honda dealership
I think so.
when
And I
I
made some chicken or something.
you made I think you made it wasn't chicken parm. We got a whole story about chicken parm. Jesus have mercy. Um
Remember?
the Latter-day Saints neighbors.
Oh no! Don't talk about it.
They were so sweet. Love them.
Anyway,
God bless them. Anyway, that chicken parm was traumatizing because y'all don't understand because it looked so picture perfect, but it had literally
no salt,
no salt, no pepper,
plain old chicken.
no herbs, no nothing.
Do they not use salt? Like, is that wrong for them?
Don't know.
Oh,
And we're not going to talk about all that.
okay.
That's a whole nother can of worms. But the thing is, we had some expectations that were properly placed and let down. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. I'll never forget it. I came walking down the hallway and I was about to go in our apartment and I smelled the most incredible smell of dinner. Like,
Like you were back at mom's house.
bro, I walked in the door and this aroma of just country, soul loving, fulfilling food was in the air. And I walked around the corner and she's in there with her apron on, got cornbread mix in her hair or a little bit and on her shirt and you had cooked some it was chicken and something stewed
To potatoes.
and butter squash.
That's it. Butternut squash.
Yes, butternut squash, potatoes,
I don't know why he
roasted
remembers
potatoes, roasted chicken with rosemary and thyme and garlic, and
lemony goodness.
it was fantastic. And I was just so shocked. I was so impressed. I was like, who came over here and cooked this?
He's so mean.
It's like one day it just clicked. But in case you didn't know it, it gets cold in Green Bay, and we spent a lot of time in the kitchen together. Matter of fact, she bought me one of the best Christmas gifts I ever had, and I used it for like 2 years. I still got a few of those left.
No, maybe one.
I do.
I don't know.
No, actually, I used the last one a few months ago, but I got a couple of the bottles left. I reused the bottles.
Yeah. Anyways.
But anyway, she bought me like what was it, like 30 something seasonings.
Seasoning mixes from Urban Accents.
That's right. It was organic herbs and seasonings, and I was just like, oh yes, because it was It was like
because
premium. They were premium.
you were living with someone who didn't have no seasonings hardly.
Right.
Like he didn't hardly ever cook, and so I was like, this guy needs some seasoning. He knows how to cook. He
I was in and out a lot, but
can't
anyway,
cook with no seasoning.
it's fantastic. So, just so if I had one complaint about her housewifing, it was as a housewife, it was that it took her a while to learn how to cook. But she did, and when she caught on, I will give you this, you paid great attention because y'all to watch her use a knife when we first got together was
Oh, yep.
like
I have zero knife skills.
I can't like I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it.
But we used to fight in the kitchen.
No,
Not fight.
you used to
Oh, it was
fight with
me.
me.
See, because my expectation was that you would just tell me what you needed me to do. And then when you'd be like, I don't really need help, then I'm like, no, you're supposed to need me. I was expecting that you would need my help and not just want me to watch you.
Well, true, but I didn't know how to tell you what I needed from you either because you had not been taught how to do what I needed. And
That's
that's a
true.
great example because I needed things cut in a specific way. I needed vegetables cut for sautéing. I needed them, you know, minced or diced. And if I say, hey, mince or cube or dice these veggies, you're like, I don't know what that is. Or you might could cut them in cubes, but everything would be different sizes.
Well, yeah,
You know
because
what I
I
mean?
grew up learning it doesn't matter how it looks as long as it tastes good enough.
Right.
Not even like taste great, but anyways,
You
that's
guys ate strictly for survival. That's why restaurants
pretty much.
can put out such mediocre food in the Midwest, and people are like, "Oh my god, it's the greatest. It's the best apple pie you'll ever have."
You're talking like you're from Jersey now.
I'm talking like some old smoker.
Is that what that is?
That is not a Midwest accent, but that's what I imagine. People are like at Perkins, just,
At Perkins?
I'll have some more pie.
They used to smoke.
I know you can still smell it in the carpet.
I know. Anyways,
I'll have the gravy and steak.
so we're talking about expectations,
I expect
and
them to not be open anymore.
so you expect. Oh my god, you expected me to be a good housewife, and then I wasn't.
So no. I was using that as an example, but it's probably not the best example. It was something that just flew off the top
Well,
of my
then
head.
let me say, I was expecting. Well, maybe this is.
You were expecting me to be a great husband, and I like to drink still. So like,
There was
I
that, but
picked. I
then
actually picked it back up.
I expected that you would get mad at me if I didn't get things right,
Yeah.
because my dad wasn't like super mad about things, but he would be kind of fly off the handle at unexpected times and get upset like if there's messes in the house and be like, everybody clean now, clean. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I have this mess here, then he's gonna get upset and I'm gonna have anxiety
Right.
and just getting nervous
Well,
thinking about it.
the problem with that. Let me just chime in here. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but let me just throw this out here. So where we're going with this is also you have to give your partner or the other person in the relationship the benefit of the doubt. When they say, hey, I don't expect that of you, you can't project that expectation back on them and hold them to that standard. And that's something we dealt with horribly.
Right, because you would say, like, I don't expect these things, and I'm like, yeah, right, yeah, right, you're just saying that, and then one of these days you're gonna get mad at me. I'm like, told you, I knew it.
So not only were you projecting your past experience onto me because you thought, you were so used to passive aggressiveness
Yeah,
until it developed to a point that it would come under, like, it was this pressure cooker. A pressure cooker starts off low
right.
and then it starts getting more and more and more and more and more, and then when you let the steam off, it's
Right.
um
Or with an old fashioned one, it just explodes.
yeah, at some point it could eventually, let's just call it a, like a an exploding pressure cooker, right? Um and not realizing the whole time that I really am chill about things. And when I say, "Hey, you don't have, I'm not holding you to that. Stop treating me like your dad." Then you would get mad at that. I'm not treating you like my dad. I'm not your dad, I would say. I'm not treating you
I don't know why that bothered me.
like. But the whole time is that you were just simply waiting on me to go off on you about things that I told you, like, it really didn't matter to me. Like, you don't have to perform in these ways. And so the next point that we're going to bring up, I guess while we're here, is you got to give, we as people in relationships, you out there, if you're listening to this and you're wondering, do I do that? Just stop and ask yourself this: do I give people permission to not be perfect?
And yourself too.
And yourself.
Yeah, because I even still I
Right.
struggle to give myself permission to not be perfect. Like when there's messes in the house, and at the end of the day, I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't finish this. I'm sorry, I never got around to doing this. I'm sorry." And he's like, "Stop saying sorry. It's okay. Like you did your best. I see you got this done." But I'm like, "But this." And he's like, "Okay, it's okay." But then inside myself, I'm like, "But it's not okay. He's really just disappointed in me, but it's me, really, it's me disappointed in myself, and so I need to do better at that."
We you know what, it's not as bad as it used to be.
Well, no, but I'm
And
saying I still struggle with that sometimes.
yeah, but as your husband, as somebody in this relationship, that I'm trying to learn how to call that up out of you better. Because one thing that
Right.
I have learned is that when somebody does something and it's acknowledged and reinforced that, hey, you did a great job, or hey, I see that you made quite the effort, what it does is it affirms and establishes in them, oh, he really does mean that it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, and even bringing it up a couple days later, like when I thoroughly clean and organize the kitchen counters, a couple days later, you're like, "You did such a great job doing this," and that just made me feel like so good that I put so much effort into it. So, and
For
I've been
sure.
trying to do better at mentioning things I see you do because I try not to, but I sometimes get on his case about how much he does or does not help around the house. But I'm starting to notice now, like pay attention to what he is doing, not so much what he's not doing, and then that kind of gives a little cushion for him to not feel like he's doing nothing pleasing to me. And so then when he does do something that I really wanted him to do, then I make sure I say thank you for doing this. And then I don't, I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm all alone doing all these things all the time. What the heck is he even doing? So I've been trying to take note of what you do. Like you cook dinner for us most of the time.
You say doo doo.
You cook. Oh my gosh.
Erroneous. I do. I cook dinner
You
a
cook.
lot.
Well, he loves cooking, but then I try to thank him by cleaning the kitchen after. To say, "You worked so hard. Go shower. I'm going to clean the kitchen."
Right.
And that shows him that I appreciate it versus being like, "Oh, I don't feel like it. You can clean the kitchen too." You know? So, and
For sure.
sometimes you actually help with laundry.
So let's move off of, like, the tangibles, the house chores, and you know everyday stuff.
Yeah.
Let's move into more emotional and spiritual stuff, because the same principles I'm finding, they apply. Communication. I I realized that I was not good at relational communication. I could talk good. I was a good talker, good at, certain things, but even in that, even in me being a person who was in sales and is in sales, and my ability to make a living relies on my ability to relate and communicate. I had to I had to learn, just as well as talking to you and other people, that charm only gets you so far. That's
Right.
just a mask that you can put on and take off. Even though I'm a genuinely nice guy, and I'm genuinely a friendly guy.
Building a long-term relationship takes a little more than that.
Hmm. But it only gets you so far, and that's even with people that you've never met. Especially with people that you're in relationships with.
Right.
It Because you run out of you
Surface
you
things.
run out of perfection, man.
Right. That's true.
Or
Eventually, you got to show your flaws.
you get pretentious at some point.
Yeah.
And therein is a lot of breakups and relation people that, if other I've noticed, like, there's so many people that if they would have went through what we went through together, they would have. You don't know how many times Rebecca would be like, "You don't bone me. Why are you here?" Because God said you're gonna be
Sometimes
the woman that I'm with.
I know how difficult I was being. I'm like, I suck. Why are you even still here? And of course, me not wanting to look like a failure, I'm hoping and I'm trying so hard to make our relationship work.
I mean, it wasn't that bad. Some one
It
of us
was see,
one of us was just overly dramatic.
me.
I wasn't gonna point fingers, but just saying.
No, I see, but like I dealt with
But you know what?
anxiety a lot, and
It wasn't that you were overly dramatic. I would fan the flames of your insecurity, and
which made me feel like you didn't care
right. But
because you didn't understand my expectations. You didn't understand what I was feeling. You thought it was.
I didn't understand your real fears.
That's true, but that's also because I didn't communicate those things to you. I felt like he should just know
I thought
these
you were just being
things.
a butt and a party pooper.
Right. Rude.
But um yeah. And so, and you know what? There's people that go through and have been through things so much worse than what we could ever think of, that are still together. So it's all
Right.
relative.
That's true.
Don't think I'm sitting here just like putting us on a high horse, because I'm not.
No.
What I am saying is that it's usually able to be fixed if you're willing to give the other person and yourself equal permission to not be perfect. Because then you eliminate erroneous expectations.
Yes. Very much.
Right?
Alliteration.
Um, and so, man, I'm gotten where I'm pretty fluent with those alliterations. Um, they're catchy, yeah. So, but being able to eliminate the wrong expectations out of your partner, out of your friends, out of your even out of people that you feel like are your foes or your enemies. If you
Right.
if you could sit down and be like, "Hey, tell me why you really don't like me," and just listen to them. That was one I had. I had a situation where I had somebody that really, they were at odds with me, and I'm like, what led you to this point? I just want you to tell me. I'm not judging. I'm not. And they begin to just, well, it was this and this and this and this, and I wanted to be like, so that's a bunch of crap. And none of that makes sense. None of it, what you're saying. But I didn't. I let him get it off the chest, and then I asked him some questions like, so did I ever do that to you, or had this ever been done before you decided that we weren't going to have a relationship anymore? Did I ever give you a reason to go against me beforehand? And 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 being willing to listen and then ask the right questions. You also have to have somebody who's willing to play along too. And when I say play along, I don't mean like in a fake way. I mean like who's willing to give and take.
Right.
Because if you're going to ask somebody questions, or if somebody's going to ask you for real critique, you have to be capable of receiving it too.
Right. And not get defensive.
Don't be a giver and not a receiver.
True. That's not gonna make relationships work. That's like I've had relationships with people that they just take because I love to give, but then after a while when I get nothing back, I'm like I don't know how I could stick around with this person. They don't do nothing for me.
Right.
And not that I'm trying to get back from them, but a friendship, it means you care about each other.
Right.
And so,
That's something I'm proud of you for, is learning where the right kind of expectation of, okay, I've had the wrong expectation of this person because I expected them to come around at some point.
right.
I am showing them love, I'm showing them grace. I am going out of my way to make sure that if they call and they need me, I am showing them the love of God. But if I need 5 minutes from them, they're not available. If I need just somebody to talk to, they want to run their mouth the whole time.
Hmm.
There's no reciprocation, right? And I'm proud of you for taking the initiative and understanding after prayer, after counsel, and after approaching them, hey, look, this is the way things are going. And I'm not down for a one way friendship. So I need this to change, or we can't be in relationship. These are my boundaries now.
Right.
And so you eliminated bad expectations,
Right.
because that person just expected to come over here and to eat your food, you to take care of their kid, you to taxi them around.
And of course, I'm a loving person, and part of me was kind of like desperate for a friendship
Mm.
because I didn't really have good friends, and I was like, maybe this will develop into an actual good friendship.
And you weren't understanding of where God had you, the place that God had you. Because
Right.
God was trying to do some things inside of you before he was able to put people with you so that you weren't toxic in new environments. And he had to do the same thing to me. I'm not pointing finger at you by any means. I mean, I'm going to say I was I was toxic in the fact that I didn't know how to, when my wife came to me and said, I I just got a problem with this, and this, and I feel this way. I was bad about saying, well, I think it's I think it's crazy that you feel that way. Or saying, well, I don't know why you would feel that way. Because, and I would begin to run receipts of why I don't think she should feel that way. And all I did was just validate why
Why I
she
felt
was
that
feeling that
way.
way, and ignoring the fact that
My feelings were real.
I can't fix it. I can't, yes. I didn't know how to embrace her feelings without co signing the illegitimacy of her. Well, let me say it like this: I didn't know how to embrace your feelings without
Taking it personal.
taking it personal, because I felt they were illegitimate. I didn't feel like you had a legitimate claim to feel the way that you did. Let me say it like that.
Do you think part of that was you not really seeing the truth of how you were acting?
Yeah, I do. I think I think it was a lack of self-awareness and pride.
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit of pride because by God, I'm right about this. And regardless if I was right or not, perception is reality and perspective shapes perception.
Right. And if you're whether you're right or wrong, if you're prideful, you're gonna try and prove that you're right.
I was too busy always trying to prove me being right so that I wouldn't be wrong. And
Because then that would mean you had to change.
yeah, and therefore I wouldn't therefore well there wouldn't be an argument. I'd be like, "See, there's not even an argument here." That's I'd be like, "You're just saying stuff. You're just being a woman."
Oh my gosh.
You
That's
know what I mean?
so
But
rude.
there that's like a real that's a real thing people do.
Just blame it on
And they
people
call
being a
that,
woman.
well, you know what that is? And that's a word, it's a term that I hate being thrown around, but it is toxic masculinity.
Oh, I've heard that term.
Toxic masculinity because by God, I'm the husband. I make things happen around here. I'm the one listening for the voice of God.
Sometimes
To you know what I'm saying?
you've said things like, "I'm a man and I can do what I want," and you've stopped saying that, really.
I used to, yeah.
But you used to say things like that, which just proved pridefulness. And I'm thankful that you're becoming a much more
And
humble
and
person.
I
But
would say it in when I would say stuff like that, it would be in jest or joking manners or about things that weren't very serious. But
well, still,
I really felt that way.
but it came from your heart,
I really felt that way about deep issues.
right?
It took giving somebody else permission to break my paradigms and to break me down in the Holy Spirit with the Holy Spirit
Right.
illuminating truth. It took Holy Spirit leading me to somebody that could look me in the face and be like, "Bro, you are bugging." And I was bugging and I was tripping and I was wrong because, and I'm not saying anything bad about uh, my dearly departed father. He's no longer with us. But if anybody knows me, they know that I was wild as a teenager. Not as a teenager, in my early 20s, and I loved my dad, and it took a while for us to repair a relationship that was really broken, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So there was a real lack of sonship,
Right.
right? So because there was a lack of sonship, there was a lack of self-awareness. And because there was a lack of self-awareness, I was only aware of the parts of me that I was willing to embrace. And the parts that I was willing to embrace were the parts that all the kind of wrong people were willing to accept.
Mm.
And they only accepted those parts of me because they benefited them.
Well,
They benefited them in some form or fashion. They benefited them because I would defend them, that I would do for them, um, or or something, right?
right.
Guys and girls, and so the relationships that I had were very surface level. What's the word I'm looking for? Um, they were just not much to them. There wasn't much substance to the relationships that I had, except for with my brother, a couple friends. Uh, that there's very few people that I was out in the world with that I can roll up on right now, and it's like we never missed a beat. Now my friends from Bible college, I had somebody seeking me out, made it a point to contact me. Like, bro, I've been looking for you for years. I'm like, you wasn't looking for me for years. We got the same circle of people that we talk to. He's like, man, I've told several people to get you in touch with me, but it's all in God's timing or whatever. My point is, and you know this, I don't have a lot of friends. I don't have people that I'm here at the house. I'm at church doing stuff, or I've got
You got like one,
I've got my brother.
two, yeah,
I got my best friend Stefan. I got,
me.
well, I'm saying outside of the house. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, you're right. Like, because I've learned that
Not that you don't have friends,
I don't
but like you don't have close people.
I
But
don't have
that's
people that I try to squeeze into my life because I don't. I've come to the place where I don't need it.
and it takes time to hold on to those relationships.
And you know what? I've gotten to the point too where I don't need other people's erroneous expectations. I don't have time
Mm,
to get past all that stuff just so I can see if we're compatible.
right.
I am now more interested in being friends with people that God aligns me with.
And it's
And
just gonna work out more quickly if God
because
made it happen in
you
the
know
first place.
somebody by the Spirit. I'm so thankful that uh Pastor Ryan knows how to call those things out of us, because it's sad to say, even at 39 and 40 years old, I had an acceptance problem. And I didn't realize that I did. I thought I got past that. And I see it's something you still struggle with too, but I want to commend you because you have gotten so much better about giving yourself permission not to be so perfect so that you feel like everybody will accept your efforts.
Right. And,
And
and not putting off a certain facade
a vibe.
so that I fit in.
You become a whole vibe now. First lady said. She's a whole vibe
I'm a
now.
whole vibe. It's because I'm learning how to be
You know
myself.
what I just noticed? Your shirt is almost the color of your girl up there.
Look
I'm
at
sorry, I had an ADD moment, but my point is, you you've done so much better at not feeling like is what I'm giving out good enough. I'm proud of you for that.
Sometimes I'm just dorky and I just don't want to look like a dork.
But you are.
But I am, so I'm like, you know what? Let's just do it.
Yeah,
Let's just be me. If I look silly, oh well.
right? And I love you for it. That's who I married. That's who I signed up with.
Yes.
Um, yeah. And I also want to say this. Whenever you give yourself permission to not be perfect, and you give the others around you permission not to be perfect, right?
Right.
What was it? Galatians,
Colossians.
Colossians,
Colossians 3,
Colossians, Colossians
verse
3,
13.
13. You know what? We're gonna go back a little further than that.
The whole chapter's good. I literally have it posted on the fridge because it's such a good
Here we go.
reminder of how we're supposed to act, how we're supposed to treat each other.
So, like, Paul in this chapter starts telling them, and these are people of God. And if you, I'm gonna save that for later. But anyway, verse 8 starts here. But now is the time to get rid of anger, rage, malicious behavior, slander, and dirty language. Verse 9. Don't lie to each other, for you have stripped off your old sinful nature and all its wicked deeds. You've gotten rid of all erroneous expectations.
That's it, right there.
You have, right? Put on your new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become like Him. In this new life, it doesn't matter if you are a Jew or a Gentile, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbaric, uncivilized, slave, or free. Christ is all that matters, and He lives in all of us. Since God chose you to be the holy people He loves, you must clothe yourself with tender hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, making allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. And above all, clothe yourself with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. And let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts, for as members of one body, you are called to live in peace and always be thankful. Now, you know what I got from that?
What is it?
Exactly what it takes to have the right kind of relationship without the wrong kind of expectations.
Yep.
Because lying to somebody is just about as much of what you don't say.
Right. Right.
If I continue to let you just be in your feelings because I don't want to hurt your feelings even more, or if I continue to let you believe that you are okay by not telling you, hey, I see this inside of you. I see the ability to do so much more than what you're feeling like you're capable of, or the way that you're doing this and this and this has been outstanding lately. Even though you feel like you messed up, it's okay. Even though you don't feel like it's good enough, it's perfect because I see how much you're putting your heart into it, right? That is what going after perfection is. Calling perfection out of somebody is not expecting them to be 100%.
Right.
The state of perfection, going after perfection, means I'm trying to become matured in whatever I'm doing, whatever state I'm in. I am trying to mature into the place that looks like Jesus.
Yes.
And it's something that we can't do ourselves. That is a work of the Holy Spirit. And so when you give people permission to not be perfect, then they can be perfected.
That's good.
Because then you start encouraging them by the Spirit of God. And then you start teaching them, just like Jude says, encourage yourself in the Holy Spirit,
Right.
perfecting your faith and being able to sit with your shortcomings because you're able to bypass and look past other people's shortcomings.
Right. Which isn't saying that when you do something wrong that, oh, it's okay, you can do it again, I'm okay with it. It's saying, I know you messed up, but I know that you just need me to love you through it. And it's okay because we all mess up, we all make mistakes, and I forgive you for messing up. Let's work on it instead of pointing the finger and being like, oh, you always mess this up. So
Right.
that's what it's saying, that you can't expect perfection, well, unless you have the Holy Spirit and He does the work in you. It's this process. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen just because you had a conversation.
Yeah. And when the Bible talks about unto perfection, it's not being flawless. It's maturing. It's being polished. That at some point you'll
Right.
be able to look at Christ and Christ look at you and say, I see myself in you.
Right.
Or people look at you and interact with you and say, I see Jesus in you.
Yeah. But like I said, it don't happen overnight. You
And the
have to allow Him to work in
and
you.
that's the process of sanctification.
Right. Like building a house takes time. Building
Right.
building perfection takes time.
It's that perfection that we should be consciously desirous of because that means that Christ is being formed in us. But again, it's nothing we can do. It comes from a place, and I'm learning this more, of just surrender. It
That's
comes from a place of just being like, you know what, God, I think I got an idea of what this looks like, but I really want to do it how you say it should look like.
sometimes that's the hard part, is just resting in knowing that God knows what He's doing. And if He said do this, I do this. And if He didn't say go do something else after that, then
Right. That's so good.
chill out.
That should be our next podcast because I struggle with resting in the complete work of a moment or of an assignment, um,
Right.
because
Our assignment
we
daily isn't always to work, work, grind, grind, grind until it's bedtime. That's how I used to do it, but now I hear God speaking to me towards the end of the day, like, okay, that's enough. Like, don't do anything else. You finish the dishes. Who cares about that unfolded laundry? Go read the Bible, go pray, whatever. And I'm like, okay, but he's like, no, no, no buts. You
chill.
gotta chill, or you're gonna be just going, stressing yourself out. And that's where I feel like, oh, but I'm not perfect. I didn't do everything I needed to do. So
Just so
it's
you
the
know,
work in
you've got permission to not be perfect.
me.
Because you're perfect in me,
I know. I'm getting
as
better
Lacey
at
would
it.
say.
So cute.
I am. I'm excited about where this concept is taking our relationship and where it's brought us from. Remember, remember, give people permission to not be perfect, because when you do, it removes erroneous expectations, the wrong kind of expectations. Stop expecting more out of people than what you're willing to put out.
But also communicate what you are expecting.
Right,
Because if there is erroneous expectations, then and you don't say it, then you can't work it out.
right. And also remember this, and I can't say it enough, a lie is also what
What
you
you don't
don't
say.
say. Shout out to Pastor Ryan Perkins.
Yeah,
Um,
that's about
so I
it.
think that was a great place to wrap it up.
Yes, sirree.
So there you have it. Some in real life
Chat.
banter.
Banter.
We thank you for watching. We look forward to bringing the rest of the
The
podcast,
rest.
the rest of the conversation. If the Lord leads us, we'll be talking about what it looks like to find rest. That's something, and see, I've been hesitant to talk about that because I'm not all the way there yet. I've not even found that place of being confident that I know what that really looks like.
That's a good
But you
conversation,
know who
though.
we need to get in on this?
Shall
Shellen.
do it.
Definitely,
All right.
for sure.
So until next time,
I don't know if she'll be our on the next podcast, but
we'll bring her in soon.
y'all, my friend Shellen, her bestie is a walking miracle,
Yes.
and God had given her this revelation of just being okay with being at rest, because she had an aneurysm and a stroke.
At the same time.
But actually no, the aneurysm didn't explode. She had a stroke that caused the discovery of the aneurysm. The aneurysm was able to be
Removed.
removed, and she completely recovered from the stroke.
Yeah, it's been 2 years now.
And I think 2 weeks later, she was back doing worship, leading worship
Something
at
like
church or something like that. But this woman she was like, I'm not playing the keyboard in front of another church member. I'm not, I'm not doing nothing that God isn't telling me to do.
right.
I've got my farm. I've got a walls to build inside my house. I've got work to remodel. And until God tells me to move on that stuff can sit right there. Like when I say she is like the epitome of chill,
Sometimes I'm
because
like, how the heck are you so.
but to know her where she was and to know where she is now
Yeah, you known her longer, so.
is that's why I'm so impressed by her surrender, and it's something that I don't strive to. It's something I really want to be able to step into, because you can't strive to surrender.
That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll bring her on this podcast one of these
Yeah, it's
times.
gonna her
And
story is amazing. So
yes.
anyway, We appreciate you. We thank God for you. Um, Pray for us. Hit us up in the comments. Be on the lookout for the next episode. We'll be posting on Facebook and YouTube, and look for links on Instagram. And what else?
You said you're gonna start Spotify eventually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stay updated on that. We're going to be posted, and we're thinking of starting to go live as well. But we have to get more organized with the cheerings and all that. So, bless you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.